I admire Dave Ramsey. I think that Dave Ramsey is great for a lot of people. Dave Ramsey helped me learn about how to manage money. I needed help with that. Going through Dave Ramsey's Financial Peace University, through church, doing his workbooks, taught me how to budget.
Where was that realization where it was time to move on from Dave Ramsey and leverage up?
Bigger Pockets.
Welcome back, everyone, to the Learn Like a CPA show. I'm your host, Ryan Bakey, with a friend and client, Shannon Haar. Shannon, how are you today?
I'm good. How are you, Ryan?
Where did we meet, actually?
Did we meet at the boot camp in 2022 here in Nashville? But we started talking before that on Facebook.
Yeah, you knew Becky, right?
I did not know Becky.
Oh, you didn't know Becky.
I sat next to Becky. She just happened to be sitting next to me the whole time. So then I got to know her because, you at the boot camp, you pick a spot that first day, and then it seems like everybody takes that same spot the whole
Creatures
weekend.
of habit, yeah.
Yeah, exactly. So that's how I met Becky from Boston.
Mm-hmm. So. But we had talked before, and then that boot camp, what were your takeaways out of that boot camp?
Oh, that boot camp was the catalyst for everything that I'm doing now. So I had a general idea before the boot camp that I was going to invest in short-term rentals. I was already had put in a couple offers. The boot camp was what gave me the confidence to know that I could totally do this and execute it well, which I did. And then it reinforced for me the teachings that I had seen from you, from Facebook, and from your podcast, and just reinforced so many things that Bill was teaching, but then, more in depth. And the relationships that I developed at the boot camp, I still have those friendships. You and I, but then also other people that I met there that I'm still in contact with.
Mm-hmm. So that was November. Was that in November?
That was October or November of 22.
Mm-hmm.
I think it was November.
Yeah, that sounds familiar.
Yeah, so November of 22. And we were not under contract yet on a property, but we had an offer in, and we went under contract shortly after the boot camp.
Mm-hmm. So you had no properties at the time?
No properties. We have a couple vacation properties that are in our family that we take care of, but they're like in a family trust.
Mm-hmm. So what about your background and your story? I guess, why did you get started into real estate?
So my goddaughter, in 21, I was having lunch with her. She's 30 years old, and she was telling me about how she's buying, and she lives in the Pacific Northwest where I live, and she was telling me how she's buying duplexes in Indianapolis, renovating them, and then renting them out. And first time I'd really heard of the birth strategy ever. Mm-hmm. And I was like, I need to know more about this. I was strictly a W-2 worker. My husband is a industrial contractor. We're very much of the Dave Ramsey era. You go to your W-2 job and you work hard your whole life and you contribute to your 401k. Fortunately, my husband has a pension, so we have that when we, start using it. And that was what we thought. That's what our parents did. That's what we thought. That's how you succeed in life. And then I discovered Bigger Pockets and just took a whole summer of enveloping as much information as I possibly could in every realm of real estate. Happened upon Pace Morby during my Bigger Pockets deep dive and joined his program with the intention of committing to that. And shortly after that, I stumbled on Bill Faith. I don't even remember where. Instagram, Facebook, whatever.
Screaming at somebody.
Yeah, well, but then the algorithm, of course, of Facebook, and what Facebook for me at that point that's how I really was keeping track of, my adult kids' friends and what was going on in their lives, and that's really all I was using Facebook for. Mm-hmm. And now I don't have any personal connections on Facebook at all. All my connections on Facebook are all. Well, they are personal, but they're personal for my real estate personal. I don't use Facebook for anything but business any longer. But then when I saw Bill Faith, I was like, oh, wow, short-term rentals. Like, I'm super interested in this asset class. So I started diving in, and I'm like, okay, I'm going all in with this. And that's when I signed up for the boot camp.
Talk a little bit about how you had the background with Dave Ramsey background into real estate a little bit more? Because we talk about this a lot, right? Like,
Yeah. Well, it's so interesting. I mean, but we heard speakers talk about it this weekend, and I don't remember which of them that it was. Was it Michael Sjogren? I don't know. But that you're raised by parents who were raised by parents who are raised by parents that you go to college, you get a job, maybe a decent paying job, and then you work there your whole life. You contribute to your 401k. If you have extra money, you put it in a Roth, all these things, which is what Dave Ramsey teaches. And I admire Dave Ramsey. I think that Dave Ramsey is great for a lot of people. Dave Ramsey helped me learn about how to manage money, because I was not taught that. I didn't have parents that did that. So I needed help with that. I didn't know I needed help with that, but I did. And going through Dave Ramsey's Financial Peace University through church, and then doing his workbooks taught me how to budget, how to make, instead of my money controlling me controlling my money, which was very eye-opening for me in my 30s.
Where was that realization where it was time to move on from Dave Ramsey?
Real quick, guys, if you could think about how you found this podcast, maybe it was on Facebook, Instagram, maybe somebody shared it with you. I don't run ads for the show or have sponsorships, so the only way this grows is through word of mouth. If this was valuable for you in any way, the only ask that I can make is that you share it with somebody else. Pass it on to the next person whose investing journey or business can be changed by listening to the show. Much love, guys, and let's get into the episode.
Where was that realization where it was time to move on from Dave Ramsey and leverage up?
Bigger pockets.
Okay.
Yeah. So we had a substantial amount of equity in a house that we built our own house during COVID. Started before COVID, and then COVID happened, and we built right through COVID, and had a property that our primary residence we'd lived in for 25 years, had a significant amount of equity in that, sold it right before the height of the real estate market, because of course, nobody has a crystal ball. I wish we would have had a crystal ball. We should have hung on to that house. I don't think about it too much anymore because makes me feel a little sick to my stomach that we sold that house for what we did. And then took that equity and put it into our new build. Should have just took out a line of credit, pulled out our equity, used it for our new build. But hindsight, you don't know what you don't know.
That's one thing you would have done different?
Oh, absolutely. Mm-hmm. Absolutely. Yeah. So we had another house that we owned before that house. Yeah, we should never have sold any of the single family homes that we owned.
Yeah.
And we did, because that's how you're taught to do it. I mean, or that's what most people do is you sell and then you buy up, right? And you use the equity, you put an offer in that's contingent upon the sale of your primary residence, and then you put, hopefully your house sells in time so that you can still buy the house. I mean, that's what the majority of Americans do.
Are taught, yeah.
Yeah.
I mean, I guess that's a little bit better than rolling negative equity from car loans into another car. But
yeah, exactly.
Talk a little bit about how taxes and tax strategy has affected your investing.
Yeah, so when we decided to start investing in short-term rentals, I knew a little bit about the short-term rental loophole just from hearing you talk about it. I mean, I'd never heard about it before. I had a basic understanding of business taxation and how you're able to take business expenses as an expense against your taxes. I didn't understand when I first got into real estate about passive losses and active losses. I do now. I like your buckets. I always say buckets of money. But then once I started learning from you about the short-term rental loophole and how we could utilize that to offset our federal tax liability from our W-2 income, that was just like mind-blowing and awakening.
You did it last year, right?
I did not do it last year. I'm doing it this year.
Okay.
Well, sorry. I'm doing it for 2023.
That's right.
But I haven't filed my taxes
yet,
gotcha. Obviously. I'm waiting to see what happens with Congress.
You're going to give me your stuff?
Yeah. I just got to get it put together. So I decided at the boot camp, or not the boot camp, but one of the things I'm doing is I'm hiring somebody to do my books. I want to do it myself. I actually enjoy it. I like numbers. But I just don't have the time.
And I also like it from a control perspective. It's like you have a bookkeeper and there's you looking at it, and you have a CPA looking at your books. I mean, there's 3 levels of checks and balances there.
Yeah.
And so you're not going to miss anything. We've seen people, especially if you're scrapping your books together at the last minute, you're inclined to miss a lot of stuff. I mean, people miss insurance, some interest, people refinances, they miss the interest on it. And so if the longer people will take to get their stuff in order, the more deductions they're going to miss out on.
Oh, absolutely. That's 100% true, especially like most people, and I am like most people, if I'm not super good about using the correct credit card every single time, I do have some mingling going on, which I'm going to stop that this year, but last year I did. Things just snowballed for me last year so much that the bookkeeping fell to the wayside, right? Other things were taken the priority. And I started co-hosting last year, and now I have 5 properties that I'm co-hosting and still doing my W-2.
On top of the rentals that you own also.
So, yeah. So I'm onboarding my 4th and 5th right now. So those aren't live yet.
What sort of metrics or goals, if you're comfortable sharing, do you have to hit before you feel comfortable to leave your W-2?
I thought it was just a dollar figure that I had put in place like 3rd quarter last year that I wanted to hit by 3rd quarter this year. But the more I've been thinking about it, I think I'm changing that a little bit. And my bankability, I'm going to hang on, I think, to my W-2 for a little bit longer until I have at least... I'd like to have 2 years of tax returns with my business under my belt before I walk away from my W-2, just because that bankability. I mean, I've been at my job for, way too long. And before that, I've been, in the industry forever. And so, along with great credit and then my husband's job and great credit, we're more bankable. But we are hitting our DTI. We've got room for 1 more property. And we're not going to be able to use a second home loan but I'm looking for creative options.
So you used to think it was like a monthly cash flow number.
Yeah, or an annual, yeah.
But now you're thinking more in terms of overall, I guess I'm trying to put it together.
Overall bankability. So if I walk away, like, let's say, for instance, if I'm making, my number that I need to hit to replace my W-2 salary, if I walk away from that today, but then I go to try to get a loan next week, I won't be able to.
Right.
Because then my DTI is in the toilet because I don't have this income any longer. And I don't have my 2 years of tax returns of my business to show that I have that income.
Yeah, a lot of investors, especially people who have self-employed income.
Hey guys, just wanted to interrupt the podcast today to let you know about my Facebook group, Tax Strategies for Real Estate Investors. We have over 6,300 real estate investors in the community actively engaging every single day. You're going to learn all my top tips. You're going to get to network with other professionals, and you're going to get to see all the past recordings and all the past posts in that Facebook group. So make sure you join today. It's going to be linked in the podcast below. And now back to the show.
Yeah, a lot of investors, especially people who have self-employed income, they're not thinking about that. Because if you're trying to quit your W-2 and you have self-employed income, you need 2 years worth of tax returns in order to qualify for a conventional. And so it's really actually probably 2.5 to almost 3 years before you're going to be able to do that. Because let's say you're full-time 2022, full-time 2023 self-employment, you're filing in April 2024 if you're lucky, like on time.
Yeah.
Most people don't. Most people do extensions.
Oh yeah, totally.
So it could be like 2.5 years before you even are able to use that income to count.
Sure, but then that if you're using that income to replace probably those 2 years prior, you weren't making that much, right? Because you're building up, building your business, and so you may for that first year have a third of what your W-2 is, and then by the end of the next year, maybe you are at that goal, that dollar figure that you were trying to hit to equal or be a percentage of your W-2, but that's not going to be reflected. That amount won't be reflected for 2 years, for 2 more years, right? Because it took you a year or so to get to that point.
What are some tips, I guess a tip that you would give to a new investor?
Educate yourself as much as you can. Read, listen to podcasts, ask questions, educate yourself.
I guess another question, what all have you learned from me? I'm curious.
from you. I've learned about cost segregation studies. I mean, everything that I know about the short-term rental tax loophole, I first learned from you. And I've learned the value or the importance of keeping your books accurate and why, even though I'm not doing it, but I'm doing it this year. I will be doing it this year. I've learned about, I would say, all things that are tax related with real estate. I've learned from you.
Awesome. And where can listeners of the podcast find you?
Find me on Facebook, Shannon Harr, on Facebook, ShannonHarr.
Awesome. Thanks.
Thanks.